And let's start off with the current reigning division champions, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Obviously led by, Baker Mayfield, who, he we talked about it yesterday in our last episode about the Cleveland Browns, how, they kind of just they dealt them away, right? And then, he had a stop in Carolina, stop in LA as the backup to Matt Stafford. But now, this is fully his team. This Tampa Bay Buccaneers team is kind of the team that it should have been the Browns, but he took control of the Buccaneers, kind of made the best of a situation, and helped them get to a 10-7 record last year and win the division and get into the playoffs. But this year, there's a lot of turnover again, specifically in the offensive coordinator department. So could you kind of talk about that new hire for Tampa Bay, and then how that affects, Baker Mayfield heading into this season?
Yeah, so the new offensive coordinator is Josh Gizzard. He has spent the majority of his career as a receivers coach with the Dolphins, and he served as the pass game coordinator for the Buccaneers last season. And a lot of people think these are just throwaway titles, but they're really not. They're looking to see where it edges in the defense. So pass game coordinator, they're looking at the weaknesses. They're looking at pass plays that they've run that they can help exploit the defense that they're facing. Same thing with run game coordinators. They're seeing which linebackers aren't coming downhill fast enough. They're seeing which defensive linemen struggle the most at locking out and maintaining their gap. Like, pass game and run game coordinators on both sides of the ball are incredibly beneficial to teams, and that's why we've seen a burst in this market. And you're even seeing it at the college and even the high school level. In some coaching cycles, I've been offered the run game coordinator position or the pass game coordinator position. Like, it is very much a real thing in football across all levels, and it is something that should not just be chuckled at like, oh, it's just an add-on title. It's really not, and you're helping the offensive coordinator focus on his job of coordinating the offense that he has in front of him, rather than having him worry about, okay, where can we get run leverage? Where can we get pass leverage? Yada, yada, yada. So Gizzard, obviously he hasn't been in a play calling position before, but now we're going to see him do that, and I think he should slot in really nicely, especially because this is a record-breaking offense last year. If you look at the fact that they had over 5 yards per carry and over a 70% completion rate. That's never been done in the history of the NFL. And they ranked in the top 6 in a lot of key analytic categories, which we'll get into in a second. But just to get back to the offensive coordinator shuffle, not just for the Bucs, but for Baker Mayfield, this is going to be his 8th offensive coordinator since he's been in the NFL. He had 3 offensive coordinators while he was in Cleveland. He had 2 in 2022 when he was with the Panthers and when he was with the Rams, which the offensive coordinator for the Rams is Liam Cohen. So I think that Baker Mayfield had a hand in getting Liam Cohen to come to the Bucs after he spent a year in Kentucky. And then he's had 3 different offensive coordinators with the Bucs. He had Dave Canales, obviously Liam Cohen, who was awesome last year, and now he's going to get Gizzard. With that, now it's, okay, who else is helping run that offense? You have Kevin Carberry, who was the offensive line coach last year. So you have Carberry, who is very familiar with Liam Cohen's run scheme. So I don't think there's going to be a change in the run game. So people that are worried about Bucky Irving, he's going to have another great season. And then this pass game should not miss a beat because he was running the pass offense last year, right? Like he wasn't calling the plays, but he was helping tailor this offense to help Baker Mayfield. So in theory, they shouldn't miss a beat on offense, and they should be, I don't think as good, because this was like the ceiling of what this offense could do. At least I think it was, just based on no team has ever had 5 yards per carry and 70% completion rate. But there is room for improvement. They were 5th in EPA per play. They were tied for 4th in EPA per dropback, and they were 6th in EPA per rush. And the success rates pretty much follow suit with that. So this is a really, really good offense. They have some question marks with Mike Evans and how much longer he's going to play, and Chris Godwin, but they've loaded up guys behind them with Emeka Egbuka. I know Jalen McMillan's going to be out for the first half of the season, but he's another young stud. Tez Johnson was an absolute playmaker in Oregon. He's going to have a little bit of a learning curve coming into the NFL, and his playing size, you don't see guys this size succeed in the NFL. It's outside of Tank Dell, which unfortunately he's had some gruesome injuries in his early career. But just drafting and how they've modeled this offense, I really think that they could be as good as they were last year. Maybe not better, but there is room for improvement.
Yeah. And last year was Baker Mayfield's best season as a passer in pretty much every category. He did lead the league in interceptions with 16, but that's not his worst season, right? Like he threw 21 interceptions, I believe in his second or third year. So for you, where could Baker Mayfield specifically improve?
I think not, because here's what's great about Baker Mayfield is that he will make the throws no one else will be willing to make, because he's the cockiest player in the league, and I mean that as a compliment. Like, he doesn't care if the safety is bearing down on a dig route or if a linebacker is undercutting a crossing route or a post. Like, he's like, I don't care. My arm is strong enough. I layer balls better than almost everyone else in the league with speed. I'm going to fit it in the tight window. And the majority of the time he does, but there's also reality that he really doesn't do that. And if we look at the interceptions, obviously tied for first with Kirk Cousins, and the turnover-worthy plays were also top in the league. He had 24 turnover-worthy plays, which tied Sam Darnold and Kirk Cousins. Now the turnover-worthy play rate, kind of the middle of the pack at 3.5%, but I think the interception volume is high because the passing volume is so high, and the risky throw volume that he has is really high. And I think that's what makes Baker Mayfield who he is. So he could be a little bit more conscious about protecting the football, which I think Gizzard is going to make it a point to him this season, because they've been trying to establish this offense over the past couple of years. Now it looks like Gizzard is going to come in as a receivers coach and have that knowledge of like, hey, like, don't put my receivers in danger. Like, you need to make sound decisions. And I think that might help him dial it back a little bit. But other than that, I think Baker is at the peak of his career and he's still getting better. And I think that change is seen leaving Cleveland, getting shuffled around in Carolina and LA, and now he's here and now he's the guy. Like, sky's the limit. I've always loved Baker Mayfield. I thought he got a bad rep coming out of college. But he's the type of modern swagger, like Jim McMahon style quarterback that you want in the NFL today. And he's a damn good passer to go with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about Bucky Irving for a second.
Yeah.
He was definitely one of the breakout stars of just, honestly, the whole NFL last year.
Absolutely.
He quickly, you're a dynasty football player, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I mean, in my league, he got picked up by this one guy in my league that kind of is, a perennial playoff misser. But he picked up Bucky Irving at the end, like midway through the season, and now he's kind of one of his franchise guys. So for you, I mean, where did Bucky Irving come from, like in terms of how he kind of broke out, how he was able to break out, and what do you expect from him this year?
Yeah, when I scouted Bucky Irving, he was my RB1 of the 2024 class, and a lot of people looked at his size and how undersized running backs don't pan out, especially when they don't have high-end athleticism. Like, him and Jahmyr Gibbs have very similar builds, but Jahmyr Gibbs is a far better athlete. But what I think a lot of people miss is Bucky Irving understands he's not the best athlete, and he uses that to his advantage. And he allows rush lanes to develop, and he has superb ball carrier vision. Like, his lateral, like, peripheral view is undeniably one of the best in the NFL. There were gaps that were not there last year. He made one jump cut and his head would shift and he would find this other lane and break for 10, 15 yards. Also, he has great contact balance. He's got good pass catching chops. Like, if you don't have a home run hitter, he is the best running back to have that doesn't have home run ability. Like I loved him coming out of college. And what I saw in college translated perfectly to the NFL. And he ran zone concepts. He ran man and gap concepts. Like, he ran everything under the sun and exceeded at a high level. I think I drafted him in the third round in my dynasty league because I was so confident that he was going to beat Rachaad White, which he obviously did. Now, with the new regime in place, we'll see who takes over as the lead back and gets the most carries. But I don't think it's going to be as big of or as much of a split as it was last year. And as people are projecting this year, I think he's going to get 60 to 70% of those carries, and he's going to get used in the pass game a lot more than Rachaad White, just because he showed how damn good he is as a pass catcher, which, like, he had that at Oregon, but it wasn't put on full display like it did with the Bucs last year. I mean, he's one of my favorite players, and I victory lapped him from I think like week 8 on until the end of the season. Like it, I don't think I victory lapped someone faster than I have Bucky Irving.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, there's no better feeling than like kind of being right on a gamble in dynasty fantasy football.
Absolutely.
Anyone here is listening that doesn't play dynasty fantasy football, cannot recommend it enough. It's like the best way, in my opinion, to play fantasy football.
Yeah, I just joined another dynasty league because I love it so much.
Yeah,
so.
It's a little extra involved, but it's honestly so much more rewarding. I want to bring up the Mike Evans thing. So obviously, there's been questions about how much longer Mike Evans is willing to go in this league, right? So now you got young guys like Bucky Irving coming up. Do you feel like there's going to be kind of obviously he's a running back though, but he's a receiving back. Do you feel like there's going to be a little bit of internal competition to see who's going to become the kind of the prime target for Baker over the next couple seasons this year?
I think so, and I think it's Emeka Egbuka. Like this is like him and Matt Golden are similar in terms of I don't think either of them will ever be wide receiver ones, but they will be awesome wide receiver twos. Working in the Z spot, they can move into the slot. And with Chris Godwin out, like Egbuka is the perfect replacement for him. Like he's a savvy route runner. He's got really strong hands, a good yak ability, and he's just another Ohio State wide receiver product who translates really well to the NFL and what NFL schemes do. And I think the best part about Egbuka's game is the suddenness and fast twitch in his hips and his knees and how fast he can get in and out of breaks. Because we talked about it a few episodes ago. Like in the NFL, you don't have to be the best route runner. You just have to maintain your speed out of your break and you'll beat anyone in this league. And he did that better than anyone in this class, I thought. And that's what is going to make him such a good focal point. And I don't think he'll lead the Bucs in targets this year or even next year if Mike Evans is around again. But by year 3 until, year 8, 9, 10 for him, he should be the Bucs leading target. And for the dynasty guys out there, you should be targeting Emeka Egbuka because he is a dog.
Absolutely. I don't have my draft up here from my dynasty league this year, but he definitely went
early.
Let's talk about this Bucs defense. You've described them as underrated.
Yeah.
Can you talk about, where they can shine and where they can kind of move up among the ranks of, just well-known good defenses in this league?
Yeah, and I think we have to kind of talk about how they performed last year, right? Because, like, on paper, you can look at them. They might have not been the best defense, but they were pretty efficient. And in terms of overall defense, efficiency-wise, they were middle of the road. But, like, they were 17th in EPA per play allowed, 19th in EPA per drop back, but 7th in EPA per rush allowed. Like, the run defense is good. And the main reason why the pass defense isn't as strong as it should be is the pass rush has been lacking in recent years. But they have done a good job of building this defense with reliable stud veterans, bringing in young core players, having a lot of rotational pieces, and making splashes in free agency in the draft, right? So getting into those reliable studs, I have to call out Levante David. He is probably the most underappreciated player in the NFL. He is still a top 5, arguably top 3 linebacker in the league. When people will look at tackles and say, oh, that's the best linebacker. No, like coverage is a huge part, and he's one of the best cover linebackers in the NFL and understanding zone spacings in zone coverage. Vita Vea is just a freak on the inside. He literally looks like a monster, and he is a monster. As a pass rusher and a run stopper, which someone his size should not move the way he does. Antoine Winfield, another guy, a top 10 or top 5, arguably top 3 safety, and has moved around. Like he's played nickel, he's played strong safety, he's played exclusively over the top the past few years. Like he's done it all, and he's done it all at a high level. And then Jamel Dean, kind of like an afterthought in this defense because he's not like a superstar, but he is good. Like he's a solid corner. I think he's dropped off a little bit the past couple of years, but he's still, I would say top 20 in the quarterback market, which is a good thing to have. And then you have your young core players. Zion McCollum broke out last year as the corner opposite Jamel Dean and finally looked like an NFL player and a good one at that. Tyke Smith was one of my favorite players in last year's draft class as a safety / nickel. I don't know if he's going to be the full-time nickel this year, but he's definitely going to be the full-time strong safety and get some slot reps, which he excels at. And then Yaya Diaby is like, I want to say he's like 6'4", 270 at edge, and he plays stand-up edge, which is just ridiculous for someone his size. He is perfect opposite someone we'll talk about later who they just added via free agency, but just a really good pass rusher for his size. And because of his size, it helps out in his run defending, which he's not the best run defender, but having the extra 20 pounds compared to your other edge counterparts is huge. And then as far as rotational players, Christian Izzian, another safety / nickel who's pretty solid. Servosia Dennis is going to be getting some starting linebacker reps, and this is a developmental guy they took a couple drafts ago, and I think he's ready to not be a full-time player, but definitely be a starter in the league. Logan Hall, who is a really big defensive lineman, but doesn't really play like it. He's got some twitchiness to him, which is good, but want to see more from him this year. Chris Braswell, an edge out of Alabama a few years ago, pretty solid off the edge. Will be a rotational guy, but should see some more snaps this year than he has before. And then Deion Jones, just a veteran linebacker who was I think he was an all-pro at one point in his career. Might have been second team, but definitely was a good linebacker at one point. Provide some veteran depth in case Servosia can't figure it out. And then they added Hassan Reddick, who's going to be playing opposite Yaya Diaby, like perfect differing skill sets. Jacob Parrish, who is listed as the starting nickel, he's super feisty and is a really good nickel. And I think taking him kind of isn't an indictment on Tyke Smith, but they want Tyke to play safety rather than nickel because being in the slot full time is tough to do. And I think Parrish did a better job of that than Tyke Smith did. Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, a good corner, kind of take up the wings after Jamel Dean will eventually leave this team, or if they can't get a new deal done with Zion McCollum, just added corner depth. Anthony Walker, another veteran linebacker, and then Elijah Roberts as an interior defensive lineman, giving some depth to this D line. So they're deep, they're young, they have veterans in the right spots and where it matters, and I think this defense could crack into top 12 territory with who they have in the wings coming up and just with the depth that they have.
Absolutely. And then we're entering year 4 of the Todd Bowles head coaching era. Obviously, he's been with this team for a little bit longer. He's been with the team since 2019, where he was the defensive coordinator from 2019 to 2021. Obviously, you got a defensive-minded head coach. Where do you feel like Todd Bowles can take this team?
I think he's always done a good job of using the talent he has as best as he can. And I want to see a few more things change, which we'll get into with the dark horse. But I think in terms of the secondary and the linebacker play, he's one of the brightest minds in terms of coverage. He's not over aggressive. He just kind of likes to sit back and let his guys sit in space and figure it out. He'll blitz here and there, but he likes to just not change things up for his defense and make things simple and say, hey, we'll drop a guy like an edge rusher into coverage here and there, which is partly why they got Hassan Reddick. Not that he's a good in drop coverage edge rusher, but he has experience with it. And I think he kind of wants to be a little more multiple, especially now that they don't have besides Levante and Vita, they don't have someone who can kick ass in the front seven. So I think he's going to want that versatility, but I think he just needs to do what he's been doing because this defense has gotten better and better every year. And he just needs to trust that the young guys are going to develop and be in the right position instead of trying to dial up something extravagant because you need it. Like, he wants to be able to sit back and call his defense the way he wants to. So he finally has a team that I think he can do that with, and that's going to help them out in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's get into your dark horse, Kalijah Kancey, defensive tackle. What do you want to see out of him this year?
I want to see better run-stopping chops because when I scouted him when he came out of Pittsburgh, he, by far was a super polished defensive tackle pass rusher, and that hasn't necessarily fully translated to the NFL, but he's improved his pass rush in the past 2 years. He went from an 8.9% pressure rate to a 10.4. He went from an 8.3% pass rush win rate to a 9% pass rush win rate. Like, you're seeing small improvements, especially in the true pass rush game. But I think what might help him, and this is what I alluded to a couple of minutes ago when I was talking about Todd Bowles, I think he's misaligned because he's just over 6 foot. He's just around 290 pounds, maybe even a little bit lighter when we're in the season. And he plays in the B gap more often than Logan Hall. And Logan Hall is much bigger and much stronger than Cansey. And vice versa. Kalijah Cansey is not playing over the tackle nearly as much as Logan Hall is. And I think in the preseason, it's a limited sample size. He only played 9 snaps, but 6 of them were over the tackle, and the other 3 were in like over the guard, inside the guard, over the center. Like, so small sample size, but that use is right there. Logan Hall was on the field with him for those snaps. So you kind of got to see how they're going to use Kalijah this year. And I think that's going to suit him better because I think he's got juice to beat the guard in the B gap, and he's got enough pass rush prowess to run the loop against the tackle. And I want to see him do that in this new fit that they're kind of, showing, which granted, it could be preseason. They could be trying it out and they might not even do it. But I think to get the most out of Kalijah and to add another layer to this defense, letting him hang out around the edge more and having Hassan Reddick line up in a wide 9 and he lines up in a 4 or a 5 tech on the tackle, like, that's going to open up a lot of layers to this defense that I don't think have been there since he's been with the Bucs. And I just really liked him coming out of college. He hasn't shown, like, he's shown flashes, which in the NFL, if you can show you can do something, that means you can do it repeatedly. He's shown good run stopping chops, but he's also shown that he'll get blown 5 yards off the line of scrimmage and completely taken 2 gaps over. Like, he struggled as a run defender in the league. With that, I think he has improved there, just like he's improved in his pass rushing over the past couple of years. It just, his pass rushing went from average to slightly above average, and his run defense went from bad to slightly below average. Like, he's improving. Now he's got to level out and take it to that next level and show that first round pedigree that he was taken with.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, pass rushing is important, but you gotta get some guys in the ground game. Final question. We talked a lot about the defense. So your final verdict, can they be enough to give the offense some help and get back to the top of the division this year?
I absolutely think so. I think they are in the best position to win this division. And I think this defense has the depth, it has the pieces, and I think they're finally figuring out where they want to play certain people to really get the most out of the scheme and get the most out of the players they currently have. And I know Levante David wants to win another Super Bowl. Vita Vea and Antoine Winfield are superstars in this league that don't get talked about enough because they play for the Bucs. And there's just better defenders at their position, but that doesn't mean they're bad. They're just really freaking good. They just get overshadowed. But I would love to see them win the division again and the defense be one of the factors of it rather than an afterthought.
Yeah, actually, you know what? You bring up a great point. I kind of want to add another kind of burning question here. Obviously, there's been a lot of changeover since, the 2021 season, or sorry, the 2020 season from when the Bucs won the Super Bowl. But there's still a couple guys hanging around from that team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you feel like there's been enough continuity? I mean, obviously Todd Bowles as well. Like, so it kind of starts at the top down. Do you feel like there's been enough continuity from that Super Bowl winning team for there still be that hunger to get back?
Yeah, I absolutely think there is, because like when you get veterans in the building that have won before and they've made more money than they know what to do with, right? Like Levante David has done everything he needs to be a Hall of Fame linebacker, right? Like, why not add another Super Bowl title? You have nothing else to gain from the sport, right? Like, go after a title, go make it happen. Like, having guys like him in this locker room, and they have it on the offensive side too with Mike Evans, right? There is guys in this locker room that have been there. There's guys that want to go back, and you never really, and I could be completely wrong, but like, I feel like when it comes to contracts and paying guys and having a good foundational locker room, you barely hear about the Bucs with any controversy surrounding that. Like, they pay their guys and they get them to stay in the building. And I think it's a really good culture. And I think it starts with Todd Bowles, and it's, echoed through guys like Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Vita Vea, Levante David, like Antoine Winfield. Like, they have a really good locker room, a really good management, just a really sound structure. And I think Bruce Arians helped develop that. And I still believe he's working in the front office for the Bucs. And as long as he's there, I think that's going to continue. And I think this is a team that, although they don't have the star power as the other big-time teams have, if I had to put money on the Bucs, I would not think twice about it for them to get back to the Super Bowl, especially with this roster.